Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is John Andrew Christie at the movies. My film festival 2025 to 2026 continues with my number 4 film from Quentin Tarantino, written by Quentin Tarantino, directed by Tony Scott, the late Tony Scott. It's basically Christian Slater plays a nice guy who works in a comic book store whose boss decides to give him a one-night stand, which is Patricia arquette. He falls in love with her, not really, she's a call girl, and then ends up killing her boss, played by the great Gary Oldman, who's a pimp. Steals a suitcase filled, dumping all of his Alabama's played by Patricia Kit, the girl he falls in love with, the call girl, and with all her clothes in, but not knowing that the other suitcase that he stole has drugs and money. Drugs that belong to a vicious drug lord named Oldmanloblaws. Now, Oldmanloblaws has some really interesting men that he sent out to kill Christian Slater's character, and one of them is Christopher Walken, and the other one is, of course, the great James Gandolfini. Now, of course, Christian Slater, who plays the main character, is a little bit unhinged in his mental state, because he seems to be talking to Elvis, who's played by Val Kilmer, and then, of course, he comes to visit his father, played by the great Dennis Hopper, who can't believe that he hasn't seen his son in a couple of years, and now his son is married. And you understand, like every father wants to see his children grow up and get married, and he wanted to be there at the wedding. And you understand the disappointment when he realizes that his son is married and never invited him. Of course, he does what every father does best, helps his son out, tells him this Blue Ball is a really nasty character, and the pimp that he killed deserved to die. Of course, in the opening sequence of the movie, Samuel Jackson has a cameo as a somewhat drug addict, bank robber, who gets killed by Gary Oldman's character. Now, fast forward, Lawrence Mason of The Crow also gets killed in the movie too. Now, if you don't know who Lawrence Mason is, he's in the movie with Matthew McConaughey. He plays the Lincoln lawyer. He plays the cab driver who picks up the Lincoln lawyer. Is the driver. He's also the guy who goes, Halloween is not till mañana, and of course, Brandon Lee takes two knives and stabs him, and it's like victims, aren't we all? Great movie. Anyways, of course, along the way, there's a cop played by Christopher Penn, and along the way, we meet best friend Michael Rappaport, who, like every quintessential actor ever goes to one audition after another, waiting for phone calls, to go to auditions. It's a terrible process. Because you never know you're going to get an audition or not. And then when you get an audition or not, you never know you're going to get the part or not, because you have to wait. Anyways, Michael Rappaport, his roommate is played by Brad Pitt, and who's a stoner, which is hilarious. And of course, Michael Rappaport works with knows somebody who does drugs, played by the great Canadian actor Saul Rubinek. And the Bronson Pinchons were perfect strangers, set up the meeting, and then, of course, at the end, it's the cops, the bad guys, and then it's great. The cops are Tom Sizemore and, of course, Michael Beach, and, of course, the great Christopher Penn, who's in Reservoir Dogs. And, of course, and Tom Sizemore that same year also did, a year later, did Natural Born Killers. So they both did two Quentin Tarantino stories. And then, of course, you got some of the bad guys. One of them is, what's his name? Victor Argo, a great actor. He was in King of New York with Christopher Walken. Now, Christopher Walken also plays a guy who works for a little boy. He has a great scene with Dennis Hopper. It's a 10-minute sequence talking about racism, sex, and violence. And it's a very brilliant scene. Then, of course, you got Val Kilmer as Elvis, which is pretty cool. Then you got the great shootout sequence at the end of the movie. Man, this movie, it's got everything. It's got sex, it's got violence, it's got drugs, it's got great acting. Actors were top notch at their game. And you got, look at the cast, you got Brad Pitt, who was just starting out, and you had, of course, you had Patricia Arquette, you had Christian Slater, you had Dennis Hopper, you have Samuel L. Jackson, you have James Gandolfini. His scene with Patricia Arquette is one of the most vicious, most violent scenes I've ever seen on TV of a man beating up a woman. It is really, yeah, some people can't stomach it. It's really tough to watch. And the explosive ending at the end. It's like, holy shit. Anyways, this is John Christie, watching my fourth film, True Romance. Talk to you later.